Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse and yet another breakdown. Today we will be breaking down and giving our initial thoughts on episode 6 of the Ahsoka series. An episode with loads of lore and world building, awesome reveals, and a very entertaining and fun episode, even if Ahsoka was not in it at all really. And this episode being titled Far, Far Away. The title obviously plays along with the fact that they are traveling to a new galaxy far, far away from their own. But this is also, and of course, in reference to the iconic line that always hits first on the opening crawls. Anyways though, we start this episode off with the purgill traveling through hyperspace, and it looks much different than the usual hyperspace jump. This is either because of them traveling to a new galaxy or because they travel so fast. Or perhaps just a bit of both of those to reach the new galaxy. As Ahsoka and Huyang sit inside of one of the purgill in the T6 Jedi Shuttle, Ahsoka reveals that she learned that Sabine went with the enemy willingly, and with that happening, she is basically allowing the war to happen as Thrawn's return is now inevitable. To pass some time, they decide to tell one another some stories mentioning the history of the galaxy part 1, 2, and 3. Ahsoka says that part 1 is the best, of course. Personally, this seems like a fun little nod to the 3 different parts of the Skywalker saga: the prequels, the originals, and then the sequels. Huyang decides to tell a story of the purgill, one that he used to tell all of the younglings during his time at the temple, as he begins it by saying a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Again, going along with the iconic saying in the opening crawls, but also it now changes everything, as a new galaxy is being introduced to the franchise. After this, we actually do not see Huyang nor Ahsoka for the rest of the episode, as we begin to focus on Sabine and everything that is going on with her journey to the new galaxy, to find Ezra, but also the imminent return of Thrawn. Sabine wakes up inside of a cell aboard the giant hyperspace ring, and Baylan Skoll approaches, and speaks to her for a very short time period through the cell door, only to walk away, leaving Sabine angered as they had a deal. Finally arriving to the new galaxy and to Peridea, which we learn was the first ever homeworld of the Night Sisters of Dathomir. This planet and its galaxy actually used to be told as a folktale in the Jedi Order. It wasn't believed to actually exist until now, of course. Baylan says that this was the end of the pathway for the space whales, and they came here to die. As we approach the planet, we see that there is a ring surrounding it. These aren't asteroid rocks, these are all bones of the purgill. Morgan Elsbeth also mentions that her people, the Night Sisters, were some of the first to ever tame and ride these space whales. Doing this even before time was a recorded aspect. As Morgan, Baylan, and Shin ride down to the planet with Sabine held as their prisoner still, we see what this planet looks like, and it looks very, very ancient, and like it could hold a lot of secrets. Their ship even passes a few statues depicting what we can assume are that of Night Sisters. Finally landing on the planet, they are met by 3 Night Sisters, and to be exact, these are 3 great mothers of the Night Sisters. And if you watch Clone Wars, you would remember Mother Talzin. So if Thrawn has 3 mothers of the Night Sisters on his side, he's gonna have some pretty undeniable power. Especially if these 3 are anywhere as close to or even greater than how powerful Talzin was. In fact, she was so powerful that she was often considered an equal to that of Palpatine, the strongest Sith to ever exist. At times, she was able to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Mace Windu in lightsaber combat in the Clone Wars. And after that, she fought off Grievous, Dooku, and Palpatine all at once. So clearly, the mothers of the Night Sisters are very, very powerful beings. And I can't wait to see what these 3 are capable of. After greeting Elsbeth, they send Sabine as a Jedi, as they say that it reeks of it. So maybe there is still hope for Sabine with her journey of becoming a Jedi, taking her away into solitude in the lower levels of this giant temple, as she yells at Baylan about their deal with finding Ezra. Baylan definitely seems like he's conflicted and or worried about this whole situation. There is no way though that if he does decide to turn, he or Shin would be able to take down 3 great mothers of the Night Sisters along with Morgan Elsbeth. That is, of course, if they are just like Mother Talzin, but I have a feeling he will end up turning regardless. Now alone, Shin and Baylan overlook the planet where Baylan explains that this is a land of dreams and madness as told by the stories in the Jedi archives. But Shin knows of no such stories as she was not raised in the temple. Reminiscing of everything that came before, Baylan reveals that he had to watch everything that he knew burn. The Jedi Temple to be precise, so this means that he was on Coruscant during Order 66, remarking that it's all a part of a cycle, the fall of the Jedi, the rise of the Empire, and it is set to happen over and over again. So he wishes to seek out this power here, and he wishes to seek the beginning, so that he can end this cycle, that is, if the old stories are true of this place. Back to Sabine as she tries to use the Force once more to open the prison doors as the ground begins shaking. However, of course, it is not her Force power that is doing this, but a massive Imperial Star Destroyer flying overhead. None other than the Chimera, Thrawn's own Star Destroyer. As it passes by, we can see that the damages from the purgill attack that happened at the end of Rebels has been repaired, with golden pieces, and the ship still dons the Chimera symbol on the bottom of it. Morgan and the group are now met by Thrawn's army, as a huge battalion of stormtroopers awaits in the hangar. All with reimagined looks. They have cracked armor, red fabric wrapping around them, and golden plating. And they sound nothing like stormtroopers either. This could be because they're all resurrected, all done by the Great Mothers. We see one of these stormtroopers close up rocking a gold faceplate and the Empire signet on his helmet. A very Roman Empire sort of style if you ask me. And these designs are sick, as Thrawn makes one of the coolest and coldest entrances in Star Wars history as the troopers chant his name. He approaches and greets everyone, saluting the Great Mothers and thanking Morgan Elsbeth. Thrawn introduces his command, Enoch, as he and Morgan discuss the catacombs as the troops head down there to take out whatever may be within. Possibly and most likely the dead Night Sisters of old, as he says that he does have an agreement with the Great Mothers. Thrawn is then introduced to Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, and immediately he knows who Baylan is, referring to him as General Baylan Skoll of the Jedi Order. Not only does this show how intelligent and well-rounded Thrawn is on everyone and everything in Star Wars, but also may hint that Baylan may have been a pretty big deal during the Clone Wars. Sabine is then brought out to meet with Thrawn, where he grants a mount and free roam of the planet so that she can find her old friend Ezra Bridger, after he thanks her for his escape from this exile. As Enoch hands her weapons consisting of her Mandalorian Westar 35 pistols and Ezra's old lightsaber. They send her on her way and set her free from capture. Now obviously Thrawn isn't going to just allow this sort of stuff without having a motivation or plan behind it. He is using Ezra as bait as he sends Baylan and Shin to follow after Sabine. And if she does find Ezra by chance, Baylan and Shin will then destroy them both. Shin seems a little troubled by this herself, wondering why they aren't honoring their deal with Sabine. I think all of this is going to lead up to either Baylan or Shin betraying Thrawn, or who knows, maybe they both will. As Sabine explores Peridia, she is ambushed by a group of nomads, a group of bandits that have the style of samurai. It takes Sabine a little while, but she does eventually defeat them all and continues her way across the planet to find Ezra Bridger. We then see Thrawn's troopers, who are actually called Night Troopers, hauling loads of crates that appear to be caskets into Thrawn's ship. There are definitely bodies inside of this, I think, but as to what, I think we will have to wait and find out. I am betting that they are Night Sisters though, as this was their original home planet. Enoch informs Thrawn that the mercenaries Shin and Baylan have departed to follow after Sabine. He then orders him to send 2 squadrons to support them. But 2 is enough, and he will not be sparing any more of his army to such a cause, as he has zero care in the world for Sabine and Ezra or Baylan and Shin's fate. Whether they are stranded here in the end or end up dying here, it does not matter to him. His only goal is to leave this galaxy. Sabine argues with her space dog for leaving her, and long story short, they bond again and end up finding a group of Peridia's inhabitants. Sort of like hermit crab people, known as the Nodi. These guys are wearing the rebellion signet, so they clearly have some sort of connection to Ezra, as the rebellion was not in this galaxy ever. Baylan and Shin discover the bandits that Sabine took down earlier. Shin wonders if Baylan knows of Ezra Bridger, but he says no, as he is too young and was part of a line of nomad Jedi trained after the fall of the Order and the Temple, where Shin says, just like me then. But he rejects that idea and says that he trained her to be much more than that. Shin then ends up asking Baylan if he misses the Order, as he sort of just stares off into the distance. He says he doesn't miss it, he only misses the idea of it, but of course not the truth or the weakness that came with it. There was no future there. Sort of like how Dooku viewed the Order and why he ended up leaving, although he did go on to just become a Sith Lord. Now all of this is referring to the fact that the Jedi changed so much during the time of the Republic, especially during the Clone Wars. They became so blinded, so political and diplomatic, and more like soldiers that they lost all of their meaning, going from noble peacekeepers to politicians and soldiers. However, Baylan feels and sees something about this place, a future here, a lone planet in a wasteland, but the ancient homeworld of the Witches of Dathomir. But it is odd, as they seem so eager to leave Peridia, as Shin says. But perhaps that is because they fear power greater than their own. Something here is calling to Baylan. As to what that is, we will have to wait and see. But this could end up being huge and building even more lore. Maybe it is something to do with the world between worlds, or maybe even the Mortis gods. All I know is that it's super exciting to think about. Bandits watch over the two from the hill, and Baylan says that there is no need for bloodshed, as they can be of use to them, as the enemy of your enemy is your friend. Sabine arrives at the Nodi village and finally reunites with Ezra. They talk for a bit and he says that he cannot wait to get out of here, but obviously that isn't so easy, and Sabine is going to have a lot to tell him about in the next episode. Cutting back to the Chimera as the Great Mothers of Dathomir meet with Thrawn once more, as they say that the threat of fate has spoken to them again. Another Jedi approaches and they ride the Travelers, being the purgill of course. Thrawn assumes that it is the recently deceased Ahsoka Tano, and obviously we know that it is. But of course he was informed of her death by the hands of Baylan Skoll, but she was saved by the lesson she was given by Anakin in the World Between Worlds in the last episode of course. Thrawn makes a remark about how death and resurrection are common aspects of Jedi and Night Sisters, and that it should be beneath Morgan Elsbeth to underestimate a Jedi. But Baylan assured Morgan of Ahsoka's death, so this can't be possible. So Thrawn plays his cards and says that Baylan is also a former Jedi, alluding to the fact that they were lied to and betrayed. Now, I believe that this is all going to lead up to Baylan's death, either by the hands of Thrawn himself or those amongst his forces, which will then, in turn Shin Hati to the light side fully, and then they will all fight against him. Even though I don't see him losing this within the last 2 episodes especially, I think and I hope his role as a main antagonist will be spanned out for much longer, because he is such an intriguing villain. He requires the Great Mother's dark magic once more. The first time was likely to resurrect his stormtroopers into night troopers, of course. As for this time, it could be to resurrect whatever is in those caskets that his men were loading onto his ship. Or maybe he will have them create an apparition or resurrect some sort of being that will be able to stand in Ahsoka's way. Anyways though, this is actually where this episode ends off. And wow, overall this was an absolutely fantastic episode. The amount of world building and lore expansion that we got in this one was incredible. Seeing all of the Night Sister stuff was super cool, and of course seeing the return of both Thrawn and Ezra was great. I think the next episode is going to be a huge one, and we may actually see somebody die or switch sides. I think personally I would give this episode an 8 out of 10. It was wonderful, but there are some things that got dragged out a bit too much that we didn't need to be so focused on. But that was really just Sabine's scenes with her space dog. Never mind all of that though, because I am so excited for the next episode, and this series has not missed a single time. and we are only 2 episodes away from the end of it, so that is really exciting. But of course, I would like to hear about your thoughts on this episode as well, so make sure to leave them down below. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed our breakdown and review on this episode, don't forget to give it a like, and with that being said, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.